Hello and welcome to the Kentucky Today podcast. I'm Lawrence Smith, the editor of Kentucky Today. Well, Christmas is fast approaching, and this week we're going to be celebrating, or next week, celebrating the incarnation of our Savior, the Son of God, born to a virgin in a nondescript town in the Middle East. We're celebrating Jesus Christ our Lord this week, and we're going to focus on that in today's podcast. And we're going to start with a conversation with one of our regular Kentucky Today columnists. Been around for a long time with Kentucky Today. Dawn Reed, a great writer, regular columnist, and the wife of Tommy Reed, the pastor of Fitzpatrick Baptist Church in Prestonsburg. She's written a new book. It's called A Heart Full of Christmas, 31 Stories for Your Journey Through December. It's 31 short stories focusing on the people of the first Christmas. I began by asking Dawn what led her to write this new book.
In January, I make New Year's goals, and one of my goals was to either do a Christmas book or a children's book. So in the summer, I realized I needed to get it going. In order, I decided it was a Christmas book and needed to get it in time for the Christmas season. And so I love Christmas. I love to encourage people. So I hoped it would be an instrument, a tool for encouragement for Christmas, for people as they read about Christmas.
Now, 31 stories, is it intended as kind of a devotional?
Yes and no. Yes. And some people call it a book of Advent. That's a new thing to call things Advent, but it can be used as a devotional. And some people text me. I got a text this morning. Some people are doing it every day, but then because it's short stories, it can be just read as you pick it up. It doesn't have to be.
And you said either a Christmas book or a children's book. Why Christmas? Why did you choose Christmas?
Oh, I love Christmas. Don't judge me, but my Christmas tree went up the first week of October. I loved the colors and the lights and just the feel of Christmas. And especially the baby.
Well, tell us about some of the 31 people that you chose to write about in this book and what you got out of it.
Well, the Christmas story has been read for so many years, and I will admit that years ago as a young adult, I would groan when the pastor would say, let's turn to Luke 2. I thought, oh, I've read that before. But because the Bible is active and alive, every time you read it, you can get a different thing about it. And so there's a lot of stories in it about Mary, of course, a lot of stories about Joseph, the shepherds. This year, my obsession has been the shepherds. And then there's wise men stories. At different times in your life, the story will speak differently. And even Elizabeth and Zechariah are in it, because now I lean more to Elizabeth years. I used to be Mary, but now I'm more Elizabeth. And so it's just about the regular Christmas people and then adding in some of the regular things that happen in our lives today that remind you of the Christmas story.
For example, can you give us an example?
Yes. The thing about Mary and Elizabeth, I realized a few years ago on a Sunday morning, this young girl came and sat down beside of me, and she was new to church. She had a hat on and she was so excited to be there. It was her first Christmas knowing Jesus. And she was whispering and asking me if it was okay for her to wear a hat and this other stuff. And I realized right then, I'm not young anymore. I am Elizabeth. I'm supposed to be an encourager and a cheerleader for the young Marys that are in the church and in my life and stuff. And that's just one example. Mary, I just cannot imagine being the mother of grown Jesus as he approached the cross. And so that makes me think of Christmas. So Christmas is an all year thing, not just in December or November. It's just, it applies always.
And you wonder what it's like being Mary raising a perfect child. I wonder what that's like.
When my kids were younger, I thought Mary never yelled at Jesus, but it was because he was perfect.
And I heard a sermon recently focusing on the shepherds, and it didn't occur to me, and you read this story a lot, but in order to respond to what the angel told them, they had to leave their sheep. That's obedience. I mean, there's so much to read into some of these stories that you kind of read over quickly and don't
Yeah.
think about all the time.
Right. And I'm hoping with this book that people will either say, is that really in there? Or, hey, that makes me want to read it and dig into it myself. So it is both for those who know Jesus, and there's been people that have bought the book and asked for the book that they don't know anything about Jesus. So I'm praying that that will stir their hearts and it will be new and draw them to God's love and his precious gift.
As you wrote and researched and wrote this book, did you find anything that surprised you?
Um, just that it applies to every day. I'm so embarrassed that years ago I thought, oh, I know this story, but it is just every day. And I keep reading it. This morning, I was reading about the shepherds, just the fear and that God led them to unknown territories, but they never quit talking about it. They never quit telling. And I wonder what happened to those shepherds after that, because they were changed and God was using them and their story. So it just depends on the day. Whatever the verse is, it just speaks.
Yeah, that's one thing fun about reading the Bible is when you try to put yourself into the shoes of the person you're reading about. It makes you think kind of what it would be like to go through what they're going through.
Mm-hmm. The good and the bad.
Exactly. So Christmas, what Christmas traditions, if any, does your family have?
Well, years ago, when my husband was laid off, we had to quit the big gift giving. It was several years ago. We had been buying presents that we couldn't afford. And then when he was laid off, we just couldn't do it anymore. And it was a hard Christmas. That story is actually in the book. I think it's the hard thing that made Christmas better. And so we usually give money to our kids. They're grown and they can get what they want. But we decorate and we watch Christmas movies. We have people over, but the not buying gifts for everybody that already has everything was really the best part. I think so. It's just a down home country, decorations, red and green, Christmas music, Christmas food and stuff, but it's not about the gifts. We actually have a doll under our Christmas tree to remind us. We've done that for years to remind us with fake hay to remind us about the baby. And sometimes that was the only gift that we had under the tree, and that's still okay.
Wow. Christmas is such a crazy busy time, as you know. How do you slow it down and enjoy the reason for Christmas?
One of the most important things is reading the story. And I encourage other people to read it every day, even if you don't feel like it, even if you think you know it all. And then we just can't do everything. We say no to a lot of stuff in a kind way when we're invited to come to this and come to that. Sometimes we can't. We do try to make sure that we include people that are not usually involved. We have been to a couple of trips to an Italian restaurant with new families in the church. But sometimes we just have to say no. Sometimes we have a good yes, but we just can't do everything.
Well, that's a good lesson because I imagine, being a pastor and a pastor's wife, you get invited to lots of Christmas things, but you've learned over time that sometimes you have to say no.
It was a hard lesson because busyness is the biggest enemy at Christmas because you're doing good things, but you can't do it all. And then you find yourself worn down, exhausted, and you've missed it.
This is not your first book. You also wrote Wiener Stew, Inspiring Stories from Appalachia, and you're a regular contributor to Kentucky Today. When did you first discover that you enjoyed writing and had a really gift for writing? Because you're a very good writer.
Well, thank you for those words. God can use anybody. It's the truth. But back in 1994, one of my New Year's goals was to get a column, a newspaper article published in the local newspaper. And so I submitted it, and then they said yes. Tim Bostic said yes. He was the editor at the time. And so then after a few submissions, he put me in as a weekly columnist. And so it's just been a fun thing that I have loved for a long time. I love stories. I always carry pen and paper. And then over the years, it has just grown. 2018, I looked back to see that's when Roger allowed me to start contributing to Kentucky Today. And then it has spread since then. But it is a privilege that I absolutely cherish. And it makes me nervous at the same time. Every time I hit send to the editors, my stomach is all queasy. I want to be used by the Lord, but it's just something that he has allowed me to do, just to share stories.
Roger Alford, of course, is the founding editor of Kentucky Today. In your columns, you basically, it seems like, take your everyday life and then write about what God is teaching you. So what do you hope people get out of that?
That God is for us and is active in our everyday life if we're looking. And it goes back to the busyness. So many times we're just so busy doing good things or just doing life that we miss how he is working in our lives. And if we are paying attention, we will see him every day. And some people think that you shouldn't pray except or talk to the Lord unless it's about big things. Oh, he is a God of tiny, middle, and large things. And that's really what I hope that people will be encouraged and will seek the Lord. They'll see him and seek the Lord when they read my stories.
And you said something significant there, and that is you're keeping your eyes open. You're always watching for those kinds of things. Your book is called A Heart Full of Christmas, 31 Stories for Your Journey Through December, available, I guess, on Amazon and wherever
Yes.
books are sold.
Yep.
What's next? Are you going to write that children's book, or what's next for you?
That is a dream, and I will put it on my New Year's goals. I have been rejected several times, but I'm just going to keep on going and just hope that maybe these other two books will springboard that. But children's books, I used to work in a library years ago at an elementary school. And so I love children's books, and that's going to be on my New Year's goals for a long time until it happens.
Real quick, you talked about your New Year's goals. Do you do that every year? I'm not a New Year's resolutions person, but do you make New Year's goals every year?
I do, but I have a list all the time of things I want to do in the week, things I need to do, timetables and stuff like that. And a lot of people don't think it's a good idea, but it keeps me focused. Like this year, one of the things I wanted to do, they don't all have to be spiritual or huge. I wanted to make pickles. And so this summer, when my family came in for 4th of July, we made pickles. And so there's other things that I want to do, intentional things about as a pastor's wife, and just to make Jesus known and be watching for opportunities and that stuff. Also mission trips, some near, some far. But every year, I don't always accomplish them, but they keep me on task. I evaluate them all often, but it just works for me.
Well, you and your husband, Tommy, are a joy to Kentucky Baptist, and glad that you write the way you do, because it's a blessing to all of us.
Well, praise the Lord. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's Dawn Reed, a regular contributor to Kentucky Today. Let's bring in our managing editor, Mark Maynard, and content editor, Chip Hutchison. She and Tommy are real treasures to Kentucky Baptist, but Mark, you've been part of Kentucky Today longer than either of us. You read virtually all her stories. Talk about her contribution to what we do.
Yeah, she does a great job and it's like you said, Lawrence, of tying the Bible and the Lord into everyday life, and that's what we all do. That's what we should be doing all the time. But you get through reading one of her columns, and you get to the end of that, and you feel good, and you see something in that she saw, that she pointed out to you. She's a very good expositor, I guess, is what it kind of comes down to, in a folksy kind of way. She talked about, being nervous and sending us stuff. And, it's funny. I've edited some stuff her columns and changed some minor edits and things. And she asked me one time, she said that, if there's ever anything, that I need to change, just let me know. And I said, well, there's one thing that I'd like you to change, and it's you're putting two spaces after a period, because that's what people did when they typed. That's what I did when I typed, but on the computer you don't, because it messes things up. And I said, I kind of hesitate about telling you because I know you're used to that. She said, no, no, no. I don't want anything to be tough on you all. So I said, well, if you can do that, that would be great. And she did, and she's fixed that, But she is just that kind of person. And I'm with you. I love talking to her and Tommy. Tommy and I talk football all the time, mountain football, because I'm of course from Ashland, and he's a big Belfry Pirate guy. So we talk about that all the time, but I love both of them. They're just great people. And I'm glad we have her. I know she has a lot of readers, a lot, that look forward to seeing what she has to say. And she's an excellent writer, as you said. She really is. Great storyteller.
She really is. Chip, you've known them both, Dawn and Tommy, for quite a while. You know how much they love Appalachia and love the people of Eastern Kentucky.
They do, and it's so interesting. Well, they love people everywhere, and they have a heart for people, a great evangelistic spirit to both of them. I met Tommy back in 2017, and it's interesting. Every now and then, I'll get an email from Dawn praying for you today. Then a month or two later, I'll get one from Tommy. Hey, I'm praying for you today. And that just, to me, exemplifies their heart of caring for people, loving people. You never have to wonder where they stand because they love people, but they are very honest with people. And I love that from them. Dawn's stories are so great. I know my daughter, one of the first things she said to me when I began working with Kentucky Today is, I surely love Dawn Reed's articles. And I think everyone can say the same thing.
You're right, and they certainly, Tommy pastors, and she helps with a very healthy church there in Prestonsburg, Fitzpatrick Baptist Church, and you can see the reason why it's so healthy with those two.
Yeah.
All right, shifting gears a bit, still along the Christmas theme, but a little bit different, a lot different. Chip, you wrote about something that was a Christmas story that was almost a near tragedy at Christmas time.
Yes, it was Sunday night, Merrittburg Baptist Church in Mount Vernon in Rockcastle County, and got an email from a fellow pastor there, Dennis Wilder, about a fire there Sunday evening. They were just getting ready to have their Christmas program, and there was a transformer that blew, resulted in some power lines that went down. A power line went down across cars in the parking lot, and it sparked a fire at the church. What's so interesting about it, the pastor there is Peyton Bowman. He's only pastored there for a month. He became the pastor in early November, and he and his wife.
Baptism by fire, literally.
That's what he told me. He said that was a baptism by fire. He and his wife was holding, they have two children, but the wife was holding Michaela was holding their 1-month-old child up next to her. They were sitting up by in the sound booth by the mixer. And when that wires fell over the cars, about 4 seconds later, he said there was an explosion right in the breaker panel behind them. And the firefighters there told him, it's a miracle that you were not killed when that happened. Neither one of them were hurt. And so it really was inspirational and encouraging to him to share the good news about the goodness of God and God's grace. There was a TV news crew that had been down the road, and when the power went out, they began to leave. They came by and saw the fire trucks there at the church, and they stopped, and he was able to have a gospel witness in an interview with them. Thankfully, now they had some damage in the sanctuary. All the wiring is shot, but they're going to be able to meet in their fellowship halls. So even in the midst of what is a bad situation, their services are not going to be disrupted. And Peyton, as I talked to him, he was just very thankful and praising the Lord for his goodness. He said that's totally contrary to what the world would say, but we sure see God in this and the opportunity to share about the love of Christ in the midst of a difficult situation.
God once again turning a bad situation into
Yeah.
something good. What a great story.
Mm.
Mark, one of the great Christmas traditions among Kentucky Baptist churches is the Christmas backpack program. You updated us on that here a few days ago.
Yeah, did a story on the backpack program in Rockcastle County. We're going to stay in Mount Vernon, I guess, today. It's always one of the better ones. You know, Rockcastle County, 17,000 population, many below the poverty line that live there. For a lot of these kids, this is their only Christmas they're going to have, as far as, you know, the gift getting and that kind of thing. They had, I think it was 759 people there, adults and students. And they don't just give them the backpack that's full of things that, by the way, was packed by Kentucky Baptist churches throughout the state, but they also share the gospel. And Randy McFerrin, who's the pastor at Bethel Baptist and also the AMS and the Rockcastle Association, he is always the one who does this. You know, he's the main guy. Well, he was sick, so he did the next best thing, called his brother, his older brother John. And John came and was glad to pinch hit for him and did a great job. They had 55 decisions. With a lot of rededications, a lot of people asking questions and that kind of thing. So, you know, it's more than just giving things. It's giving the gift, you know, the gift of Jesus. That's the most important thing that they do. And Catherine Pope with Give Hope, it kind of organizes that whole thing. And they had 120 volunteers. They had 15 volunteers from a little church in Shelbyville that came, and they also brought tons of backpacks with them as they came. So, you know, it's another just still, you know, we talk about working together and better together. It's another example of that, the backpack program that really, I don't know how many we have in the state. It's thousands that are packed, you know, and several different areas have the programs. That was a really good one though. And she did a good job of organizing, and they had 2 separate services. Chris Martin also spoke to a group, and John, and he loved it. You know, he loved being able to help Randy out, and Randy was glad he was there too. So it was good. It was a good story. It was a good time.
You know, we hear a lot about Samaritan's Purse's Operation Christmas Child program, the Christmas Shoebox program, which goes to kids across the world. So it's a good program, but it's good to hear there's something that we do here in Kentucky that benefits children here in Kentucky at Christmas time.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a great program that they have, and those backpacks, let me tell you, they are jammed with things, and these churches do just a terrific job. So you know, kudos to them for the work that it takes to do that, and for the money. You know, it's not cheap filling a backpack.
Well, you heard me ask Dawn about her Christmas traditions, so I thought I'd ask you guys what Christmas traditions you and your family observe every year. And Mark, you're talking last, so we'll start with you.
Okay, yeah, we have a couple. One, we always eat breakfast at my mother-in-law's, and you know, she's 92 now, and she's still planning on cooking that breakfast. You know, ham and gravy and biscuits and eggs and all that good stuff. But one tradition that we had, my family and our church at Unity Baptist, they always had a Christmas Eve service, always, you know, and it was 5 o'clock in the evening, and you know, just a great time. And we probably had as many people come to that Christmas Eve service as came to any service that we had. But you know, pastors live out of town and they need to go be with their families and that kind of thing. So one year they didn't have it, and Beth and I were just like, "What? What? You know, what do you mean?" Well, I was chairman of the deacons and I had keys to the church, and I said, "We're going to go have it." So she and I went over and took our candle and matches, were real careful, and went in the church, and we just had our own little, you know, Christmas Eve service, and thanking the Lord for His goodness, and you know, thanking Him for Jesus's birth. So that is our 2 traditions, I guess, that we've had.
Yeah, that breakfast reminds me of ours. You know, since our kids were little, we've always had spent Christmas morning at home. You get up, open presents, and my wife cooks a huge Christmas breakfast, then we go to other relatives' house, either my family or her family. And by God's grace, both our children and our daughter-in-law, and more importantly, our grandchild, still live in this area. So we do still get together on Christmas morning at our house and have a big breakfast, and then go elsewhere. So that's kind of become, over the years, our Christmas tradition. Chip, what about you?
With our situation of us living now in Louisville the past 6.5 years, it does complicate it somewhat with our daughter and her family being in Princeton in Western Kentucky, and we have other family members. We've got a niece and her family now in Tennessee, East Tennessee. So it has made getting together a little bit more difficult, but we make it work. And my wife always cooks a meal for those who can be here for Christmas. And one of the great family, let me say, jokes or situations is they never want her to change any of her recipes. One here a few years ago, she made a slight ingredient change, I think, on baked fruit, and you would have thought she had just put poison in it. No one wants the recipes to be changed. So we have the rule now. If it's cooked one way, it's going to be cooked that way for until Jesus comes back.
Well, those
But
tastes and smells bring back memories for people, so they don't want it changed.
they do bring back memories, but one of our great memories is we always gathered our daughter and her husband and their son's home, and we have a Dirty Santa exchange, and we have everyone in the family wants to be there, and we have great memories. We have some great Dirty Santa ideas. I've already got one in store for my daughter that will have the house in an uproar because they will all be laughing so much. So I'll update you after Christmas on how that goes.
That sounds good. We also, Don and I, talked about New Year's resolutions. I'm not a resolutions person, although I did a couple of years ago decide that I was going to eat healthier, and I've been able to stick with that for a couple of years and lose some weight. But well, what about you, Chip? Do you have any resolutions for the new year?
You know, I'm old enough, Lawrence, that I decided years ago it was futile to make resolutions. It seems like we always have a plate full of things that we want to do and intend to do. And I do have some of those, but not a formal resolution. But certainly there are many things on my plate that I want to accomplish in 2026. Hard to even say that number, isn't it?
Indeed, it is. Mark, what about you? Any resolutions?
Mine are daily as the day comes.
Get
Let's get
Kentucky
through this
Today out on
day and get
time,
to,
right?
yeah, and get to the next one. I'm ready. No, I've never been a resolution person either. Although, just like you, Lawrence, I have. It's not a resolution anymore. It's a life change to eat better and try to take better care of myself. With what I'm eating and exercising and all that. So so far so good.
Let
Well,
me
you look
say,
great. You do.
Lawrence, before we get into this, you two are shaming me with your well documented healthy eating. I have not gotten on board with that yet. So I guess you all are putting the pressure on me now.
Well, just a couple of real quick non-Christmas notes. Congratulations to Barry Jeffries, who's
Yes.
our new consultant for the Central Region. He was approved by the mission board, and he told his church this past Sunday. And Mark, real quick, I want you to talk about the ongoing Thanksgiving offering for Sunrise Children's Services.
Yeah, that Thanksgiving offering is really a very important offering for Sunrise Children's Services, and they count on that big, and therefore they're counting on Kentucky Baptist churches as they do, and all that goes through, and then goes through the cooperative program as well. They don't survive without the cooperative program, and they don't survive without Kentucky Baptist, and I think Del Settles certainly understands that. But this is just a really crucial offering, and almost always does very well. But don't take things for granted. Give to that cause, and be generous in your giving, and the Lord will be happy with you for that, for sure.
Indeed. Well, this is our last podcast until 2026. Thanks to everyone for listening to our new podcast and for reading KentuckyToday.com. There is no Christmas break for the website. We'll keep continuing to post new stories every day. So keep reading. And while you're there, go ahead and sign up for Morning Briefing, our daily email news digest. And for more on the Kentucky Baptist Convention and on the cooperative program that makes this program and many others possible, go to kybaptist.org. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Lord willing, we'll see you next time on the Kentucky Today podcast.